Hello and welcome to this week's Terrace Bay Council meeting. There will be a presentation to Council of the Terrace Bay Recreation Plan. Some older bylaws will need to be updated, including animal control and grass cutting. CAO John Hall will give a recap on the recent AMO conference, and finally there will be a discussion on rest facilities in the Simcoe Plaza. The full agenda is up next. Thank you for watching.
On Tuesday, September 3rd, 2024, I call this meeting of the Corporation of Township Terrace Bay to order. Declaration: the Council of the Township of Terrace Bay hereby acknowledges that we are in the Robinson Spirit Treaty Territory, and the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and the Métis. Additions, deletions, or amendments. We have a motion moved by Councillor Johnson, second by Councillor Dubé. Resolved that Council approve the agenda for September 3rd, 2024 regular meeting for the following additions and amendments. Number one, addition of presentation by McQueen Galloway Associates, Terrace Bay Recreation Master Plan to item 6A. Addition of bylaw 33-2024 being a bylaw to authorize an agreement between the town of Terrace Bay and the Rural Transit Solutions Fund to item 9B. And number three, addition to the Lake Superior National Marine Conservation Area Administration and Visitor Center 10D. Any other items? Okay, hearing none, all in favor? Carried. Any disclosures of interest? Hearing none. Adoption of minutes. Motion moved by Councillor Dubé, second by Councillor Johnson. Resolved that the minutes of the regular council meeting held August 6, 2024 be approved as amended. All in favor? Carried. Item 6, presentations. We have a presentation tonight from McQueen Galloway Associates on the Recreation Master Plan. Floor here's Tracy.
So for a smooth presentation, I'll do the presentation. It will be less than 10 minutes. And then Terry Allman, who's also on the link, will sort of lead the question period, just so it's hard sometimes when you're doing virtual. So we have a plan. So I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to present the Recreation Master Plan tonight. And good evening to the mayor and as well as all the councillors. So next slide. Let's look at the project journey. We started the project in the fall of 2023, and that phase we really looked at all the research and the analysis of all the data that we had. We looked at policies, we looked at the financials, we looked at utilization and staff structure and, the facility assessment. We also looked at trends and how the program and the events that were happening in the township. Next slide. So the next phase of the project was definitely what we called phase 2, and that was the community engagement. And we had a robust engagement. We did high school workshops, we did virtual interviews, we did in-person interviews, we interviewed the mayor and council, as well as staff and even retired staff, as well as the community development committee. But a good part of our information also came from the user groups and the participants. So that's what we called phase 2. Next slide. So before we could develop sort of the meaningful and the actionable recommendations for the township over the next 10 years, we really needed to understand the township in its current state, or we call a point in time. And the SAR, or the Situational Analysis Report, is designed to do exactly just that, to give you all that data at that point in time. Next slide. And before I go through a little bit of the data, I wanted to just share sort of some of the engagement themes that came up with all of our engagements. That definitely there is a theme that there is a wealth of opportunities, or an abundance of indoor and outdoor opportunities to participate in. There was concern over volunteer capacity, the effectiveness of some of the committee groups, as well as how good of our youth engagement was, the beautification of the township, the maximization of the space utilization mostly in the indoor facilities, and future decisions on infrastructure. So those are just the themes that came up in the early stages. So next slide. So with the completed and approved SAR, we started drafting the master plan. Next slide. So the master plan is designed to have 4 strategic themes, and those are investing in our people, enhancing our spaces, leveraging our assets, and funding for the future. And each of those strategic themes, there is a recommendation that under each recommendation, sort of the proposed timeline, what is the community benefit or the organizational benefit, and the resources that would be required for that. Overall, in the master plan, there are 28 recommendations over 10 years. Next slide. So theme 1 is investing in our people. In this, I'm not going to read and go through each recommendation, but happy to answer any further or detailed questions at the end. There's 8 recommendations over the period of the 10-year plan of the master plan. And in this section, there are recommendations on developing youth strategy and a volunteer strategy, how to do an event evaluation process, as well as looking for more opportunities for new providers and developing our current service providers. Also, in continuing to do recommendations about engagement with the community, especially on programming. Next slide. Theme 2 was enhancing our spaces. This was the biggest area with the 12 recommendations over 10 years. And in this section was really focused on facility conditions, the cost, doing a cost benefit analysis to determine the future use of ice facilities in the township, funding strategies for outdoor pool, as well as doing an assessment on the other outdoor amenities, for instance, like the tennis and the pickleball, whether they should be pickleball, whether there should be basketball courts, whether it should be an improved skateboard park or an all-wheels park. All of that is in this section with recommendations on safety audits for play equipment, as well as really doing a complete analysis on the indoor space and whether new businesses or partnerships could happen at the recreation center. And also, lastly, in this section is how do we incorporate cultural opportunities and icons into public spaces? We call those Instagrammable places. Next slide. Theme 3 is how do we leverage our assets? And in this section, there's 5 recommendations over the period of the plan. And they are in areas of how we can develop a consistent partnership policy. How do we support partnerships and seek new initiatives? There's also a recommendation on the analysis of a seasonal campground, and to continue to seek shared services is also a recommendation in this section. Theme 4, our last theme, is the funding our future. There's 3 recommendations in this area. And how do we continue to pursue new funding streams? A review of doing program fees and charges, and how do we engage with the local businesses and communities to try to elevate their, not only their expertise, but their sponsorships and donations. So that's the 4 themes, and the recommendations are all in those sections. And then before we sort of head into the question period, yes, next slide, sorry. We wanted to just talk about the council's role in the master plan, or some people call it a strategic plan now. But we need your support. Staff needs to support it, because together we really need to set the realistic expectations for the community. Not everything will be able to be delivered. Things will be determined on funding, but we need to have a plan and a priority, and that's exactly what the master plan does. And before questions, just the next slide, just in closing, we want to make sure that this master plan has an annual, check-in system, because there's so many things that are variables in any plan. There could be new and changed information, the financial change, new resources. Your township does an amazing job on gaining resources through grant programming and other programs through the government. So you never know when you're successful with those applications. Community feedback constantly changes, as well as trends. There's also always changes within a 10-year space, is whether staff roles change, whether their duties change, whether their priorities, or you add staff or you lose staff. So those are all a factor, as well as we all know the growth and decline impacts that could have in the next 10 years. So like MGA always wants to say this plan, it's a roadmap, but it needs to be flexible. But most importantly, that staff and council really need to be accountable for the delivery of the master plan. So that was our short presentation on a high level of the master plan. As you can see, it's a comprehensive document, but we're happy to take any questions on any further information that you would like, and Terry can lead that.
Any questions from anyone?
Right now,
No questions?
it's pretty thorough, so we answered a lot of questions already.
I guess we have no questions, Tracy.
Well, oh, I see a hand up. How does that work?
Oh, no. Somebody waving.
No
Well-
question.
No, it's a thorough plan. It's a good plan.
I honestly would like more time to review it personally. Like I just got it at 3, really. That I really, so I've gone through it a bit, but again, it is thorough, and I know we've had lots of conversations, and I've got my own ideas, and just reading through this and seeing my own vision with the high school students and programming for the youth, which has been a big part of my interest in even running the council in the first place. So how that can support, this document can support those growth goals I've been, going through your different recommendations and whatnot, so it's laid out really well, and again, I've read it at fairly thoroughly, but I'd like to go through it a bunch more and start making my own notes and whatnot, and I'm sure I could get a hold of you, if need be, or Luke and whatnot, and this is gonna be the document that guides his work in the next 10 years as well.
Okay, thanks, Chris. No one else? Okay, thank you, Tracy, for the presentation.
No, thank you. And Terry, do you have any last words of wisdom to thank the township?
Well, all I can say is, having spent a week in Terrace Bay with my wife, and looking at your amenities and talking to folks in the town, it's really a special place. You have, as a council, you've got a great community, and then some tough decisions ahead in order to continue to support the infrastructure that is so valued by your residents of all ages.
Okay, we have a motion moved by Councillor Johnson, second by Councillor Dubé. Resolve that council accept the Terrace Bay Recreation Master Plan as presented. All in favor? Carried. Okay. We have this one here again, the parade, John. We have them, I'll read the motion. We have a motion moved by Councillor Dubé, second by Councillor Johnson. Resolve the council approve the passage of a bylaw to regulate the keeping of animals within the town of Terrace Bay, and that the appropriate bylaw be brought forward.
So just to speak to that, your worship, so the report is there, the draft bylaw was on the agenda. I had a conversation with our bylaw enforcement officer. He's concerned over a certain section with respect to us enforcing animal welfare. In talking with Paul, he seems to think that responsibility is actually at the provincial level. So we kind of wanted to investigate that first before we pass the bylaw with a bunch of language in it requiring us to look after animal welfare. So we just want to sort that out. There's a couple of other small, words or things he would like to see here or there. And I think there's a couple of spelling, missing periods and grammatical stuff, but that could have been fixed, just verbally tonight. But with the concern over the animal welfare piece, I think I'd like to talk to Paul. Unfortunately, he's away camping this week, but he should return. So I would change my recommendation from accepting it tonight, just defer to the 16th. So.
Okay. Everyone okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
We need a motion for that?
Yeah.
I'll move that.
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Thank you.
Annual conference update.
So just to recap the AMO conference for council, so we started off, we had a very productive trade show, one of the more productive we've had going there. They investigated self-cleaning washrooms based on a topic that's actually on tonight's agenda. We also looked into some companies that offer automated speed enforcement and speed signs. We had a good chat with MPAC. I think, was there any other ones you guys want to highlight, or?
Nuclear waste management as well, getting a conversation with them about a presentation.
Correct. So we had asked them to come make a presentation to council on transportation piece at some point in the near future. So they were going to get back to us on that. In terms of our delegations, so the first one was infrastructure. We brought our message to the project. Our application-based funding needs to be increased and actually needs to exist, because right now it doesn't. The deal between the federal government and provincial government hasn't been finalized. So no new ICIP program project base has been announced at this point. Also, we talked about the 10% allocated for small rural northern communities under the Building Faster Fund. That still hasn't materialized yet, or the application process, or however that's going to roll out, has not materialized. Interestingly enough, during Minister Surma's speech the following day, an additional 10% allocated for small rural northern communities of 1.2 billion. It's the same amount, a very similar thing, under the core infrastructure program that was just announced at the conference. So we put questions forward to see if it's the same 10% or if it's just being reannounced and repackaged, or if it's an additional 10% for small rural northern communities. There's no guarantee we're going to qualify for these dollars. It's just a matter of knowing what grant funding is available. And the initial one that I just talked about, our Building Faster, was actually announced at AMO last year. So there's been no, it was, the last update I had was from Municipal Affairs, the AMCTO Zone 9 conference. They said watch for a spring 2024 rollout. Obviously that hasn't happened. Next delegation with forestry, obviously the very important to our community, the mill in particular, but also to our region. Basically our message was that the mill needs to reopen or sell and reopen as soon as possible. We also renewed our request for commitment from the government that wood supply will stay with the mill. We had a game change that morning, or a lineup change that morning. Kevin Holland was actually named Associate Minister of Forestry, a switch from the previous change that took place a week prior, I think. So so that was a bit of a curveball. But we did speak with Kevin. He said his door's always open. We can call him anytime. Obviously, he's in our region. We can also, we're up in Thunder Bay, we can stop by, and even though he's not our MPP, we can stop by and talk to him as well too.
And the other thing with that, we have about the roads again. Someone got $6 million to work on the road, and apparently, I don't know how far up it's mileage 11 or the crossover there. It's in terrible shape.
Yeah, I watched that. Like, yeah, it's kilometer about 55-ish.
Yeah.
60.
We asked if they could keep us more informed. We'd sign NDA just to stay in the loop. So,
okay.
But like John said, Kevin, and no different than Minister Smith said, they're committed to reopening the mill. I know Stryver had a delegation with him also, and I know Greenstone had a delegation with him also. I'm not sure if any other like Labor or Horn Pain or first talked about it, but
okay. Next we had the NDP, another delegation with the NDP caucus. Again, that was a rehash of the other two I just talked about. The mill, wood supply, forestry roads, heating the mill of the winter. The forestry industry in general, just the significant loss to the region with the mill closure and how it's affecting other communities, such as the sawmills in White River, Horn Pain, Greenstone. We also brought our message about infrastructure funding as well too. Another one we discussed with the NDP was the OMPF. So it's been 550 million spread across not quite all 444 municipalities, but for those municipalities that qualify, since the Ford government took office. Our costs have gone up with inflation since obviously post-pandemic, it's been really noticeable, but it's maybe time for that fund to be increased. We get more of a share from the province.
Sorry, OMPF.
Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund.
Okay.
We also talked with the NDP about position recruitment. Just in difficult, and it's the competition that's going on now amongst municipalities that council has been made aware of through various news articles in the last few months. It's not a good way to run a healthcare system, especially for a small community like ours trying to compete with bigger centers.
Yeah, no.
And we brought up the MTO issue with them, speeding to our community. We did share that we've been making some progress. You see the speed signs on either end of our community right now, so we're collecting data. We discussed supportive housing, and then finally with the NDP, we also discussed EMS service with respect to our current situation, including the station consolidation, which we're not subscribing. I happened to attend one of the lunches, which is a waste energy project, so waste to fuel actually. It's interesting technology. It'll be interesting if it's actually legal here in Ontario eventually. And then one of the last sessions on the last day was the housing forum, which will be shared as an upcoming episode of TVO's The Agenda, but there was a panel of 4 people there, experts from other provinces, as well as consultants about the 1.5 million homes, whether or not that's a realistic goal for Ontario and some of the tools and obstacles that our municipalities are facing trying to achieve that goal. So open to Paul or Gary if you want to share.
well, like John said, the trade show would be good. I mean, some of the things are costly, but I found the photo radar probably the most interesting. They would administer the whole program. You wouldn't have to do anything. The washroom, like I say, I've been asking for washroom downtown for years now. Personally, myself, I wouldn't go to the self-cleaning one. I think you're just looking for more headaches there.
Yeah, I think what was effective though with the trade show is that there's actually went to the one booth and they had self-cleaning washroom, rehabbed and everything.
Oh yeah.
And we said, oh, that's really cool. How do you get a quote for to compete? And we walked around the corner, there was another one. for a third of the price or whatever, so it's kind of good to see the options that do exist. That was pretty thorough, John, checking already, so.
Fair enough.
Okay. Next item, review bylaw 19-2005, regulate grass cutting on private property.
So this has come about for two-pronged for two reasons. One is just the age of the bylaw. It's probably due to be renewed. It's from 2005, so it is quite old. The other aspect of this is we do have a resident that's written us and provided council with some feedback on his thoughts on the bylaw. So our working group met, I think, just before AMO. Actually, we met on Friday. Myself, Councillor Dino, and Mayor Balshinsky. As you know, we meet regularly or semi-regularly to discuss updating certain bylaws. So this one was sort of front and center following the next meeting, the completion of the animal control bylaw. So our recommendation as our group would be to tell council that we need to take a look at this bylaw, update it, and continue on in that general project and update a bylaw every update a couple every year. So there's not much else to say about it, just that the modernization of this bylaw is also important. There's been some court cases that do talk about generalization of length of grass and that type of thing. There is some precedent in the courts right now. So we want to come up with a bylaw that's been modernized and speaks to allowing people to express themselves in terms of how they grow their gardens and their lawns on their property. So that'll be one of the things we do look at with updating the bylaw. But also just in general too, updating set fines, those kinds of things, making sure that our bylaw enforcement officer has the tools in his bag to do his work. So,
Any questions?
Nothing. No, I'm all in favor of that.
Motion moved by Councillor Johnson, second by Councillor Dubé. Resolve the council direct administration to draft and bring back a modern grass maintenance bylaw to future council meeting. All in favor? Carried.
thanks, council.
Ryan, you're up. Public Works, surplus goods.
From time to time, the township has goods that are no longer required, and administration wishes to sell them on. Section 12 of bylaw 18-2021, the procurement policy bylaw, dictates how surplus items are to be dealt with. Disposal of surplus and obsolete goods. Department heads shall notify the treasurer when goods become obsolete or surplus the requirements of their department. Department head shall be responsible for ascertaining if the goods can be of use to another department at the township. The department head shall prepare a report for council with a recommendation to 1, transfer the goods to another department, or 2, advertise the goods for sale to the public via auction or tender, or 3, to have the goods classified as waste and disposed of accordingly. No council member, employee, or volunteer shall be permitted to receive surplus, scrap, or obsolete goods except by purchase at public auction or by public tender. This policy in no way precludes the township from donating surplus goods to a nonprofit organization. For the purpose of this section, where 2 or more bids are equal, bid that was received earlier shall be deemed to be the highest. So current discussion, currently Public Works has 3 items to list as surplus. Items are 2016 GMC Sierra, an out of service equipment trailer, and out of service fuel. Given the age and condition of the items, administration has deemed there to be no feasible use within the township departments. The items will be advertised for sale via public tender process, responding through the treasurer. It is worth noting that although the township purchased 2 new pickup trucks in 2024, administration would like to keep the 2011 BMC Sierra as it has many high value parts that will fit the township's 2013. It is believed that more value be gained from using the parts off the truck versus selling it as a surplus item. For financial implications, any money generated were not budgeted for and will be transferred to Public Works vehicles and equipment reserves. So 2 options here before you. Option 1, council declare of the following items as surplus: the 2016 GMC Sierra, another service equipment trailer, and another service fuel tank. And that items be offered for sale to the general public via tender auction. Option 2, that council not approve the surplus of these 3 items and directs administration otherwise. The recommendation is option.
Any questions? How many miles are on that 16, right? Per kilometers?
Under 300,000 to 85-ish. I think somewhere in there.
Other questions? We have a motion moved by Counselor Dubé, second by Counselor Johnson, resolve that council declare the following items as surplus: the 216 GMT Terra, an out of service equipment trailer, and an out of service fuel tank, and that the items be offered for sale to the general public via tender or auction. All in favor? Carried.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Blue Rural Transit Solutions Fund.
Thank you. So I'm hoping that this is the last time I grant funding update for you guys. So in July 2023, Council approved a resolution to support the Infrastructure Canada Rural Transit Solutions Fund for the procurement of a new community health transportation vehicle. So RTSF has sent through the official application. Should Council choose to enter into the agreement, RTSF will offset 8% of the cost of a new hybrid community health transportation vehicle. So our options are option A, the council approve rural transit solutions fund contribution agreement for the purchase of a hybrid vehicle to expand on-demand services provided by community health transportation program in Terrace Bay and 5 surrounding rural communities in Northern Ontario, and that the appropriate bylaw be brought forward. Option B, the council does not approve rural transit solution fund agreement and directs administration otherwise. The recommendation is option A.
Any questions?
Once if we approve this, can you go and get quotes or tenders on a vehicle?
So go to RFP. It's already written, should just be a matter of updating some dates and looking over one more time. We should be able to advertise it this week.
Okay. Perfect.
No other questions? Okay. We have a motion moved by Councilor Johnson, second by Councilor Dubé, resolve the council approve the Rural Transit Solutions Fund contribution agreement for the purchase of a hybrid vehicle to expand on-demand services provided by Community Health Transportation Program in Terrace Bay and 5 surrounding rural communities in Northern Ontario, and that the appropriate bylaw be brought forward. All in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Communications, St. Martin Tours, Nicholson Hall, asking to waive the fee. We have a motion moved by Councilor Dubé, second by Councilor Johnson, resolve the council approve the request from St. Martin Tours Catholic Women's League to waive the fee for use of Michael King Hall on October 19th, 2024 for the annual Fall Bazaar. Any questions on that motion? All in favor? Carried. Okay, this bylaw.
You should defer the motion and consider it seconded.
Okay.
Motion to defer first, move to second.
Motion to defer this bylaw.
Yep.
All in favor? Carried. Carried. Okay, next item, the motion moved by Councilor Dino, second by Councilor St. Louis, resolve the council approve a bylaw to authorize an agreement between the township of Terrace Bay and the Rural Transit Solutions Fund to be read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed, signed by the mayor, clerk, sealed and numbered on the third day of September 2024. All in favor? Carried. Next item, another business, Simcoe Plaza, rest utilities and access. I think we touched on that a bit with, the Washington, I guess there's picnic tables in there.
Yeah, I can speak to basically the email. I received some feedback from community members about a variety of things that are on tonight's agenda. And again, I've forwarded out to admin and council here, but just for the sake of the meeting, I'll just reiterate exactly what. So the first one is rest facilities and access. So anyway, some of the feedback that I received was lack of uptown public washrooms available for travelers this summer. The pet store had indicated that they get 15 to 20 requests per day to use their bathroom. Last year at AMO, and again this year at AMO, there was exhibitors that had portable type washrooms, with something like that be feasible. The Double Eagle in Nippigan, the gas station there, if you've ever used their public bathroom there, it's a little bit different. It's heated in the winter as like wash your hands and whatnot. Rented outhouses have come to me, putting up outhouses uptown. And I believe, Rick, you had mentioned that it was in the original plan for uptown to have bathrooms there, and it was cut due to budget, over budgets. Yeah, some community members have indicated to me that the treat area behind the Tesla charging lot is filled with toilet paper, regardless of the state of development of the MTO lot. Maybe it's something we look at. And again, that's something, again, with the status of the MTO, do we sort of hold off if there is a full bathroom facility being developed by the MTO at that location? Do we hold off and say, let we put signage there, say perhaps the Tesla charging station, like a fully functional public bathroom is available over the bridge at the MTO lot, and have like a map or a visual or something along those lines, which would alleviate costs from the township to have a bathroom there, like a heated year-round bathroom? Or do we look at other temporary things like those self-cleaning ones? And I forget, sorry, who had mentioned, Gary, was it you that mentioned that they were getting trashed, or they were, no, that there was.
Yeah, I think St. Catharines has a pretty good case that they're actually moving there because of vandalism.
Vandalism, yeah.
They have self-cleaning ones?
Yeah.
That MTO rest stop, you probably won't see anything there permanent until 2026. There's like a water and washroom and all that.
Right. So again, I think another one of our sort of wonderings or ideas that manifested was to even have a sign saying there's public bathrooms available here at the TIC. And even having like a map that's temporary, or like a sign that's temporary for the season saying, hey, again, here are the public washrooms available, because there is no signage. And if you're not from here, if you're traveling through, you wouldn't know. And that's obviously what this is geared towards, is to try to alleviate those businesses. Because even going to Moe's and Joe's and the various shops uptown, every single one of them says no public washrooms available. But it doesn't direct these people to where to go, right? That doesn't solve the problem. It just pushes them next door. So what could be a cost-effective solution perhaps for next tourist season? Or again, like maybe it's just a signage issue.
I'd be very curious, what does it say about your community when your businesses go no public washrooms? Like, what's the reason why they not want public washrooms, the public inner washrooms, right? So there might be an opportunity for us to have even a business partnership, in whether we provide cleaning staff or even dollars to retrofit part of a business to offer public washrooms. Just thinking out loud a little bit, because they have plumbing and everything available. Even some of the empty businesses uptown, there's some potential there to develop, in addition to our second phase or third phase, the development that we've never completed.
Yeah. It's just a lot of money to put in the short term, I think, is what you're saying. Or like saying, now we're putting money into a private business as a public entity. Again, when these facilities already are existing here at the municipal office and at the TIC, but like, again, like would an outhouse be from, again, like I believe it's Phil's American, would that be something saying, hey, maybe we just have an outhouse? I'm not sure, and that comes once a week, it gets cleaned. I'm not sure. That might be, again, until this MTO, you said 2026. Apparently, like, if everything moves forward as planned, then that's only like a year and a half that we have an outhouse and incurring that cost. Or do we just put up signs? Again, that's more cost effective than trying to work with a business or to try to say retrofit an empty place like by a post office, in my opinion.
Next item there, Chris, picnic area and furniture.
Yeah, picnic area and furniture. So related to number one, lack of area for travelers to sit uptown and have lunch and rest. I know there is a picnic table by the lighthouse. There's one, if I'm not mistaken, on a bench there as well. However, again, is there one by the Tesla charging station too? Yeah. So, the feedback that I got were some people were getting food, and the township owns that property behind the Norwood motel, and to have maybe a little bit more, a lot of people are out there walking their dogs. There's a lot of kids running around. So saying like, okay, maybe we get takeout, or maybe we get some food from one of the local establishments there, and they could sit outside underneath those trees, and maybe rather than one picnic table, there's a few I had put forward, because my students love doing these community engagement activities that in the past my students built and refurbished the picnic tables that are down at the main beach when the pavilion was built, something like that, to have this have more people stop and eat. Again, when I travel across the province, one thing I look for is to have place to have picnics with my kids, and to, if I have my dog with me, let my dog run around. So having that area be more suitable to that. If there's one picnic table and there's already a family there, there's a lot of people sitting in the grass when people drove by and notice that. You have all those campers parked in that one side across from the LC and whatnot. And where do they go to eat?
Luke, do we, or Ryan, do we have any spare picnic tables? No.
There is a few in Poplar Park though. Probably more than we need in Poplar Park, just an observation.
That's what we can bring that up.
There is probably 4 or 5 up there, 4 for sure.
Okay.
Possibly relocate 1 or 2.
Yeah. And then reevaluate it next summer and see what it looks like.
Yeah.
If we can use existing resources, that's obviously way better.
I don't want to. I would prefer that. I don't want to go out and sink a lot of money into that, and unless we're sure around this table nobody ever wants to do a phase 2 up there, because most of the phase 2 was on that side of the top. If we were to go dig that old plan out. So you know what I mean? If we're not interested in looking at that right now, then let's go do picnic tables and some nice stuff, but I don't want to invest in
Kids are gonna cost you.
No, but I don't want to throw that resources out and then turn around and haul it all back out.
And the other thing about spending resources on it, number one, I think it's a low hanging fruit. And number 2 is there was that program that put the plaques and whatnot on all of the benches and picnic tables down at the main beach. I think that's something that we really look at, especially you've got all the picnic tables and benches uptown. Like, why not put plaques on them? Why not generate that revenue? I don't know how to say, like, cast out, hey, who wants this? And maybe we do get feedback and say, yeah, I'm willing to put this X amount of money to offset a lot of the cost of this. And if we get no feedback, then, or nobody's biting on it, then we can say, okay, that's not a viable option or a way forward.
So just a couple of comments. We will have a budget schedule coming up soon, and now is the opportunity for that. After that point, one of our first budget meetings, administration will be looking for some guidance and guardrails from council on what they'd like to see. Certainly, this is a good time to bring these topics up because we'll be considering them for the 2025 budget. Just also, if we got any comments specifically on furniture.
Okay, the last one.
Can I ask one thing actually to do with picnic tables? How much were the plaques going for? Was it $200 or $300 or something like that?
Well, they were just cost recovery first.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, if we can go with that sort of same mindset or philosophy that we can have that cost recovery plaques and invest in a few that is cost neutral for the community. Okay. Bouncy castles. Okay. With the Lighthouse Festival again in our rear view mirror in Winterfest as well, but it's coming up quickly. Some community members have brought up the potential of the township investing in our own bouncy castles. If the township was to invest in just one bouncy castle, this would alleviate costs to rent castles from the community. We wouldn't have to do it. And additionally, if it was the correct size, it could be rented out by the township for birthdays all winter long. During Winterfest, there was a bouncy castle in the old library. This is very well attended due to the winter storm that day. Further, looking to add additional activities for our youngest children as part of the rec master plan. The potential to offer perhaps Fantasy Castle Saturday afternoon night at King Hall, or rent them out for birthday parties at the old library. That is constantly being rented out for. I spend most of my winters on Saturdays in the old library at birthday parties. From my own personal experience, I was at a birthday party in Red Rock this past winter, and the individual was hosting the party rented the gym off the Red Rock Arena, an adjacent room, and rented the bouncy castles from the township. Again, while there might be an upfront cost, I put 500 to 1,000. I was corrected, probably 1,015 is a lot more. For the castles, I believe the cost could be quickly recuperated through self-rental, which means obviously renting it to ourselves rather than outsourcing that cost, and community rental as previously described, say for children's birthday parties.
Oh,
John had a point with regards to liability.
Yeah, the insurance company basically said, don't touch them.
Okay.
So just a comment, so it's not an insurmountable. I currently don't know if municipalities are on their own. Most of them put the liability off on a third party that carries their insurance. The one initial comment that did come back from our current insurer, or our current carrier, they don't exclude them. They don't necessarily recommend them. What they did say is you're going to look for, it's going to be a very small market to get insurance for that type of business operation. So if we were getting into renting them out, you're only going to find maybe one or two companies out there that do it. And the insurance is probably going to be pretty expensive. So,
right,
like I said, it's not insurmountable, but it just might be more expensive than we're thinking. That's all. So, something again put forward when the budget process officially begins. Something you can task administration to look at. I'll continue to speak with our current broker. He forwards information, and I can pass that information along to council. But again, I think it's a good thing to bring up during that time.
Any questions, Joe? Question period?
Oh, sorry. If anybody, there's nobody in the audience. So if anybody online has a question, now's the opportunity. Into the chat or into the Q&A. Going once. Going twice. And third and final call. What questions online, your worship?
Thanks, Sean. Next item, we are now going in camera. We have a motion moved by Councilor St. Louis, seconded by Councilor Dillon, resolving.
Right. It's not a question, it's a statement.
Resolve that council move the next portion of this meeting in camera to discuss minutes from the previous in-camera session held on June 3rd, 2024, and one matter that is subject to solicitor client privilege, including communication necessary for that purpose regarding the lease of municipally owned property, the airport, and one matter with respect to personal matters both identifiable individuals, including municipal or local board employees, by law enforcement matter. All in favor? Carried. We're in camera.
Those online, you can rejoin at this link to watch us adjourn. Not sure of the timeline though. Have a good night.